we're about to do here is the owner has a natural spring that comes up down in this little gully, and he'd like to change it into a pond. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the trees out, and then we're going to bring the equipment in and we're going to dredge it out a little bit. We're going to use the trees that we cut down to make a natural dam across and use it as a structure. Then we'll take the dredged material out and we're going to pile that up over the wood that we put in there and reinforce it, put a liner down, put some boulders on top, and make them a natural pond down in here for the wildlife to utilize.
We're using a choker chain and snag line on an E42 with our Pro Clamp setup. Just basically trying to move all the dead growth out of the pond area so we can get it all ready to hold water and not have a bunch of undergrowth sitting underneath it. All right, so we just got done digging between these two trees. That'll be kind of the prep for our dam of where we're going to put the logs. Now it's just a matter of getting the rest of these out and cutting them and laying them. Now we're going to hook up to our MX flail mower so we can kind of clear up some of the brush where the pond's going to go.
So what we got here, you can see behind me they've bowled this all out, and you can see that the spring is probably about 25 yards back up here. What we're going to do for the first part is leave it open. We're going to lay fabric down, leave the middle open, and then we'll just do a horseshoe shape so that we make sure that we're downstream of the spring before we lay fabric, because what we have is non-permeable fabric that we're going to lay down. And so if any of the spring where it's coming up is underneath the fabric, we're going to have a real issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're really generous with how far down we come before we go across.
So now we're going to start the process of putting the logs in to build the dam. One of the biggest obstacles we're going to face here is being able to maneuver the logs. We're trying to alternate the big ends and small ends every other so they stay closer together. We have less void in the middle for water and erosion to happen. Now we're starting the process of putting the dirt against it, trying to shore everything up, make sure it's sustainable and it's not just a bunch of logs piled here. And now our next step is going to be to fill in this side as well. Slope it off, because eventually water will run over the top of this. We need to give it a nice gradual grade so it doesn't erode what we're doing. We'll also put some rocks and boulders so we don't get erosion on this side. So now we're doing the final grade across the top of the dam. We're trying to make it as flat as we can, but we also want to make sure we have the low point where we want it for the water to run over and give it a path to go instead of letting it make its own, because we don't want it to go over the whole dam and erode it. Now we're in the process of prepping for fabric. So we put a flat top on our dam here so we can wrap the fabric over it. We're also making a flat top to our banks. We got a good place to sit the fabric in. The other thing we're facing is as we're working here, the water's building up because it's a live spring, about 8 gallons a minute. Well, we actually found another spring while we were digging, so the concern is if it goes over the dam before we have our fabric, it'll wash away all the work we just did.
60.
And now our next step is we're going to start placing fabric all along the outside so we can actually have a pond.
Yeah, Becky pulled a corner, and then I'm going to slice it by the tree here.
This way, everybody.
It's going to go in easier than we thought. It's going really well.
It's a little challenging getting the underlayment to sink. We got it kind of set up on both sides, but it's kind of a touchy process. Once you start it, you got to keep kind of moving around. You can't kind of stop and go with it because we got to make sure we get the next one in so we can make sure we have our right overlaps as we continue through the pond. So we got all the tarp finished putting that in. Now we got all the sand on it now to hold it down, and we got all the sand around the edges to finally get those in so we don't have any voids for the spring to continue going underneath. We want to make sure that spring gets up on top of the underlayment, which I think we've done now. Now the last challenge we have is trying to get sand on the dam itself without wrecking the underlayment. As you dump sand on it, that underlayment wants to move, but we don't want to rip or tear or turn with the machines to disrupt the underlayment that we have laid down, because it's all nicely overlapped and we'll be good.